Hey, so I figured since nobody's used Kotor tool in years, and it's kind of a funky program, I just make a quick, not really tutorial, but just a brief overview of some of the features real quick, so it's not like totally daunting. So first off, actually getting it working is often rough, and I'm not entirely sure what all goes into it. I know that usually running it as administrator helps. Sometimes there's path issues. You may have to do like a registry edit or something. I can't remember. Might have to Google that. Nevertheless, if you do get it working, um, so it's gonna usually end up be looking like this. I'll make it bigger, and so it works for both KOTORs. There's paths and stuff to set up, and there's a few different just things you need to know about it. So first of all, it has save functionality on here, and you can look at your saves, look at the information about it. I wouldn't recommend using this to edit saves. This is pretty nasty program, and it'll generally always corrupt saves. It's very bad about that. So there's that. There's IRFs, that's mostly for texture editing, or if you want to add your own modules and mods. So again, not super useful for us. Big important thing is RIMs, or RIMs, whatever you want to call them. And in there is the modules folder, which is really important. This is every single module, sometimes you call them zones in the game. And they're very well labeled. They even add the little label here if you turn it on in your settings, I believe. And so these are all the modules in the game, and they're very well labeled. It's pretty self-explanatory what they are. One thing to know is stunt. Stunts are all the cutscenes that you go to, and so those are important to know about. But so every single module has two folders. There's their regular module folder and then the _S variant. The regular folder has dynamic area info, which is where everything's located, module info, which is stuff about the module as a whole, and static area info, which is where all the actual big bulkheads, 3D model stuff are all located. The S one is the more important one. This has all the characters and information about them, and it can give you nice little information deals. This is a guy named Alan Matale, and all that kind of stuff, and has all this information about them. It also has all of our doors, items, merchants, placeable sounds. Dialogue is a big one. And we can actually view dialogue files and go through all the dialogue paths and look at the scripts that are run and scripts required to be run in them for all the different characters. And you see references to these dialogue files in these other files as well. And then finally, there's scripts. All the scripts in the modules are compiled, which means they're god awful to read. They're like decompiled C scripts. So they're like assembly, basically. These can be read, but it's kind of hellish to do so. But there you go. So that's the basics of that. So yeah, and you can look through those pretty easily. And next up is BIFs, or BIFs. There's several useful things in here. The 2DA folder, the GUI folder, the items folder, the what's called scripts folder, the templates folder. Those are all very important. So 2DAs are just a bunch of basically spreadsheets or arrays for all sorts of different things, such as class power gains or base items and like different values that go with them. So if you want to explore like basically data, and also editing them can be fun for making mods. GUI is important for looking at information about GUI elements. It's actually a lot to take in, and they're really hard to view, and you're going to need a GFF editor to look at those, which there should be a download for that in one of the other links that I sent. Sorry if I'm going a bit fast. I'm just trying to make this brief. Items, actually that's not important, never mind. And light maps also isn't really important either, unless you're doing a whole light mapping thing. What is important is scripts. So here there are some source scripts, and these are super powerful. Most of these are used in the game, not all of them. But and they are kind of organized, sort of. It's weird to look through, but they have all these different scripts. Anything that's a .nss is a script that's very readable. A lot of these include scripts are very important. Like, for example, here is scripts that are used on the Endar Spire. And first of all, they usually define a lot of stuff. They're very well notated. They're very well written, actually. So reading them is really nice. So yeah, these are all super and useful. You're just gonna have to kind of explore them, really. There's not a whole lot you can do other than that. So yeah, there's all of that. And then templates is really big because they have a lot of templates for all the different characters in the game, templates for different doors, encounter types, items, triggers, placeables, waypoints, etc., as well as a lot of the dialogue in the game is all in here. So that's the most of it. One thing that actually didn't know I forgot to mention is triggers. So triggers are really cool. As we know, we're able to save buffer through triggers. It's really important. These are basically just basic triggers for like traps and stuff here. But the other modules, you can use the trigger files to see exactly what they do, how they do it. If they start, mostly they start a dialogue of some form. Sometimes they can spawn creatures, as we discovered, all that kind of stuff. And the dynamic area info files will actually give you the dimensions of those triggers, tell you where their corners are. These you also need a GFF editor to read, so I'll try and post the link to that in the Discord. So sorry if that was super fast and kind of confusing, but that's the basics of it. Also, that's all pretty much the same thing for Kotor 2. They're coded basically the same. And that's the most of it. I hope this kind of helps.